I never imagined that the absence of an object could weigh as heavily as the presence of a betrayal. If you've ever felt your heart clench with disappointment from someone you loved, this story is for you. Please subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments from which city in the United States you are following this journey. I love to know where you're all from. My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 62 years old, and I live in a cozy house in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. My life has always been guided by order and affection, especially since my husband Robert passed away 5 years ago. My son, Michael, is the apple of my eye, and seeing him happy has always been my top priority. 2 years ago, he married Tiffany, a young lawyer from New York, and I did my best to welcome her into our family with open arms. On that autumn Tuesday, the morning sun streamed through my bedroom window, but it couldn't warm the cold feeling that ran through me. I was getting ready for a lunch with my gardening club friends and decided to wear my pearl necklace, a family heirloom that my grandmother had worn at her wedding and that I myself wore at mine. It was more than just jewelry. It was a link to my roots, a symbol of generations of love and tradition. I opened the blue velvet jewelry box, the place where it had always been kept, and my heart froze. The space was empty. I rummaged through the box, then the entire drawer, the closet, the room. Every corner of the house was inspected with growing urgency. The necklace simply wasn't there. A cold panic began to set in. I was meticulous with my belongings, especially with something of such sentimental value. No one else had access to my room except Tiffany. She had spent the weekend here, helping Michael fix the roof, and I had made her feel at home, even giving her access to my private bathroom in my room. The idea that she might have had something to do with the disappearance was a repulsive thought, but it refused to go away. That necklace was irreplaceable, not just for its material value, but for the history it carried. I felt violated, betrayed, and deeply disappointed. The thought of her deception was a bitter blow, but my secret camera captured the shocking truth. My trust shattered, but justice was near. To understand the depth of my pain, you need to know the story that brought me here. My life has always been dedicated to Michael. Since Robert left, I became the rock of our small family. I worked tirelessly as a history teacher in a local public school, ensuring Michael had every opportunity he deserved. I watched him grow, graduate from the University of Georgia with honors in engineering, and become the upright and kind man he is today. My love for him was and is unconditional, a love that made me overcome any obstacle. When Michael introduced me to Tiffany, I was genuinely happy for him. She was beautiful, intelligent, with a promising career at a law firm in New York. At first, she seemed charming, always with a smile and sweet words. I invited her to all our Sunday dinners, included her in family traditions, and even helped her plan the wedding, offering my home for preparations and contributing financially to make the day perfect. I wanted her to feel part of the family, to know she had a place here beside my son. However, over time, I began to notice small things. Tiffany had a subtle way of diverting Michael from me. Our weekly lunches began to be canceled with vague excuses, and phone conversations with my son became shorter and more rushed. She seemed to have a constant need to be the center of Michael's attention, and any mention of our past or our traditions seemed to irritate her. I tried to ignore it, attributing it to the insecurity of a young woman entering an already established family, but the feeling that something was wrong, that she was in some way undermining our relationship, grew every day. She always treated me with a cold politeness, a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and a distance that prevented me from truly knowing her. I strived to be the perfect mother-in-law, but I felt my efforts were constantly repelled. The disappearance of the necklace now seemed to fit a pattern, a disturbing piece in a puzzle I didn't want to put together. The absence of the necklace was not just a material loss. It was a blow to my trust, an attack on my peace of mind. The image of Tiffany, with her forced smile and evasive eyes, hammered in my mind. I refused to believe she was capable of such an act, but logic led me to a dead end. No one else had been in my room. No one. I decided to confront her. I called Tiffany, trying to keep my voice calm and neutral. "Tiffany, dear, do you remember seeing my pearl necklace in my room over the weekend? I can't find it anywhere." There was a pause on the other end of the line, a silence that lasted a little longer than usual. "Oh, Eleanor. No, I didn't see anything. Why? Is it missing?" Her voice was a little too loud, a tone of surprise that sounded forced. "Yes, it's gone. It's a very old family piece. I'm quite worried." "I'm sorry, Eleanor. I hope you find it," she said, and the conversation ended abruptly. Tiffany's denial, so quick and without the slightest hesitation, only fueled my suspicions. The way she avoided any additional questions, the lack of genuine empathy in her voice, all of it sent a cold shiver down my spine. I had no proof, just an overwhelming intuition and the certainty that something was terribly wrong. My mother's heart, which had always guided me, screamed that I needed to protect Michael, even if it meant unmasking the woman he had chosen. I couldn't accuse her without evidence, not without destroying my relationship with my son. It was then that an idea, which previously seemed extreme, began to form in my mind. A desperate measure, yes, but necessary for the truth. I needed proof. I needed to know. The next day, with a heavy heart and a determination I never knew I possessed, I went to an electronics store in downtown Atlanta. I bought a small security camera, discreet, almost invisible. My plan was simple: install it in my room, in a strategic location, and wait. Not to catch her red-handed stealing, but to observe, to understand what was happening. I needed answers, and I was willing to go to any lengths to get them. The truth, however painful, was the only path to peace. The small security camera, the size of an ice cube, was installed with surgical precision. I discreetly placed it on the bookshelf, camouflaged among some old American history volumes, with a clear view of my jewelry box. The indicator light was almost imperceptible, and the battery promised days of continuous recording. It wasn't a trap for a thief, but for the truth. I didn't want to believe that Tiffany was capable of such a thing, but doubt, like a parasite, had already set in. The days that followed were a silent torture. Every phone call, every unexpected visit put me on alert. I felt like a detective in my own home, observing every movement, every word, searching for a sign, a clue. Michael, oblivious to everything, continued his routine, and I struggled to maintain normalcy, hiding the storm brewing inside me. A week later, Tiffany called Michael, saying she would be in town for a lawyer's conference and would like to spend the night at our house, as it was more convenient than a hotel. My heart raced. It was the opportunity I both feared and hoped for. I greeted her with a forced smile, offering the guest room, but keeping a discreet eye on her every step. That night, while she and Michael had dinner in the dining room, I checked the camera. It was working perfectly, recording every second. The next day, Tiffany left early for the conference. As soon as she departed, with the excuse that she needed some documents she had forgotten, my heart pounded. I rushed to my room, anxious and apprehensive. I disconnected the camera and connected it to my laptop. The screen lit up, and I began to fast forward the video, minute by minute, my hands sweating coldly. I didn't know what I expected to find, but the feeling that my life was about to change was overwhelming. And then I saw it. The recording showed Tiffany entering my room. She seemed relaxed, perhaps even a little too comfortable. She walked directly to my dressing table, where the jewelry box was. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. She opened the box, and for a moment my world stopped. There it was. My pearl necklace, which I had desperately searched for, was in her hands. She held it up to the light, admiring it with a smile that was not of innocence but of satisfaction. There was no hesitation, no surprise. It was as if she knew exactly where it was, as if it belonged to her. She put it around her neck, turning to see herself in the mirror, and a glint of covetousness passed through her eyes. Then, with a quick and calculated movement, she took it off, wrapped it in a silk scarf from my lingerie drawer, and put it inside her designer handbag. The scene lasted only a few seconds, but it was enough to destroy 26 years of trust. It was not a mistake. It was not a misunderstanding. It was a theft, a cold and premeditated theft, committed by the woman I had welcomed into my home, into my family, as a daughter. The tears I had held back for days finally rolled down my face, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of anger, of indignation, of a deep pain caused by betrayal. The image of my daughter-in-law, the successful lawyer, the woman Michael loved, stealing an item of incalculable sentimental value, was a blow I never expected. My trust shattered into 1,000 pieces, but justice, I knew, was near. Anger gave me a clarity I hadn't felt in a long time. I couldn't confront her immediately. I needed a plan, one as meticulous as her theft. I needed to protect Michael, but I also needed to ensure Tiffany paid for what she did. It wasn't just about the necklace. It was about the violation of my home, my trust, my family. That night, Michael and Tiffany returned home. Dinner was tense, at least for me. I watched her, trying to decipher what was behind that perfect smile. She talked about the conference, about the cases she was working on, about plans for the future. Every word was a stab, knowing what I knew. Michael, as always, was oblivious, happy to have his wife by his side. After dinner, when Michael was in the kitchen, I approached Tiffany in the living room. "Tiffany," I began, my voice low and controlled, "I need to talk to you about something important." She looked at me, a slight air of curiosity in her eyes. "Of course, Eleanor. Did something happen?" I picked up my laptop, which was strategically placed on the coffee table, and opened the video. The image of Tiffany, with the necklace in her hands, filled the screen. Her smile froze, her eyes widened, and her face turned pale. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. Michael, who had just entered the room, looked at the screen, then at Tiffany, and then at me. "Mom? What is this?" The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the sound of the recording. Tiffany, in a panic, tried to close the laptop, but I stopped her. "No, Tiffany. Michael needs to see this. He needs to see what you did." The flame of vengeance, or rather of justice, began to burn in my chest. The silence in the room was broken only by the sound of the recording, Tiffany's voice echoing as she admired the necklace. Michael, wide-eyed, alternated his gaze between the laptop screen and his wife's pale face. The disbelief in his expression was palpable, followed by a deep pain I never wanted to see in my son. "Tiffany, what is this?" Michael asked, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Mom, what's going on?" Tiffany, who had been paralyzed until then, finally found her voice, though it was choked with panic. "Michael, it's not what you're thinking. It's a misunderstanding. Eleanor, you're framing me. I didn't steal anything." "No, Tiffany," I said, my voice firm and controlled, despite the storm in my chest. "The camera doesn't lie. I saw you. You took my necklace, wrapped it in a scarf, and put it in your bag. There's no misunderstanding here." Michael approached Tiffany, his eyes searching for an explanation, a convincing denial. "Tiffany, please, tell me this isn't true. Tell me there's an explanation." She tried to compose herself, the lawyer within her trying to take control. I was going to give it to you as a gift, Michael. I wanted to surprise your mother with a special gift, something she loved, and I knew how much she valued that necklace. I was going to buy an identical one and swap them, but I didn't have time." The lie was so blatant it made me nauseous. "Don't lie to him, Tiffany," I interjected. "You weren't going to buy an identical one. You stole it. And it wasn't the first time you tried to alienate my son from me, or that you acted dishonestly." Michael turned to me, the confusion on his face turning to anger. "Mom, what do you mean by that? What kind of accusation is this?" "Michael, I didn't want it to come to this," I said, feeling my heart clench. "But Tiffany has been manipulating you, pushing us apart, planting doubts about me. She doesn't want me to be a part of your life. And now she stole something of inestimable value to me, something that represents our family." The tension in the room was unbearable. Michael looked at Tiffany, who was in tears, but without the slightest conviction in her defense. The recording continued to loop on the laptop, irrefutable proof. "Tiffany," Michael said, his voice now cold and distant, "where is the necklace?" She hesitated, then, with a defeated sigh, pointed to her bag, which was on the sofa. Michael picked it up, opened it, and inside, wrapped in the silk scarf, was my pearl necklace. The gleam of the pearls, once a symbol of love, now seemed to mock the situation. Michael took it out, holding it in the palm of his hand, and looked at Tiffany with an expression of utter disillusionment. "Get out of my house, Tiffany," he said, his voice low, but filled with an authority I had never heard before. "Now." Tiffany tried to argue, to plead, but Michael was unyielding. That moment, the image of her with the necklace had broken something irreversible within him. She gathered her belongings and, amidst sobs, left my house, leaving a trail of disappointment and the promise of a battle ahead. The news spread like an uncontrollable wildfire, and the repercussions were so overwhelming that Tiffany's life publicly crumbled under the gaze of an implacable force, as if 50 police cars had converged to bring her to justice, each one representing a fragment of her reputation and future that was dissolving. It was poetic justice, an outcome that, though painful, brought a sense of relief and retribution. The pearl necklace, the catalyst for all truth, was returned to its place in the jewelry box, but now carried a new story, a lesson about the true value of trust and integrity. Michael, by my side, was stronger, more aware, and our relationship, once shaken, was rebuilt on more solid and honest foundations. Months passed since that fateful day. Michael and I rebuilt our relationship, now stronger and more transparent than ever. He learned to value honesty and loyalty above all else, and I learned that sometimes the truth, however painful, is the only path to healing. Tiffany, in turn, lost her license to practice law and moved away, trying to start over elsewhere, but the stain on her reputation followed her. The pearl necklace, once an object of pain, is now a constant reminder of our family's strength and the importance of truth. I wear it more often now, not with fear, but with pride. It represents not only my grandmother's legacy, but also the resilience of a mother and the integrity of a son. Life in the Atlanta suburbs returned to its routine, but with a new clarity. Michael visits me frequently, and our Sunday lunches are filled with laughter and open conversations. He's dating again, and this time, he introduces me to each new person with an honesty and openness that reassures me. He knows my love for him is unconditional, and that true happiness is built on the foundation of trust and mutual respect. Sometimes the greatest pains teach us the most valuable lessons. Tiffany's betrayal was a devastating blow, but it allowed us to see the truth, strengthen our bonds, and value what truly matters: family, honesty, and unconditional love. If this story resonated with you, if you faced the pain of betrayal and found the strength to overcome it, share this video and leave your comment. Your experience can inspire others to seek the truth and rebuild trust. Remember, truth always finds a way, and justice, even if poetic, always prevails.